Peace, peace is the child we call, all babes, all sons and daughters. Christmas is a very accessible holiday, for at its core is the birth of a child. There are stories of angels and wise men, but all pale in comparison to the image of a baby in a manger. A baby, the most fragile form of humanity. All of us have been there, weak and vulnerable. Our apparent weakness is deceptive, for each of us contain the potential to save the world. Unitarian Universalist Sophia Lyon-Fahs wrote, "For so the children come, and so they have been coming. Always in the same way they come, born of the seed of man and woman. No angel herald their beginnings. No prophets predict their future courses. No wise men see a star to show where to find the babe that will save humankind. Yet each night a child is born is a holy night. Fathers and mothers, sitting beside their children's cribs, feel the glory and the sight of a new life beginning. They ask, where and how will this new life end? Or will it ever end? Each night a child is born is a holy night, a time for singing, a time for wondering, a time for worshiping." This poem is read in almost every UU fellowship every Christmas. And I had always thought it was our own little addition to the Christmas traditions. And then I found out that UUs have made more than a small contribution to Christmas. Among our contributions to Christmas are the popularity of Christmas trees, the story of Scrooge, the image of Santa Claus, and jingle bells. Charles Fallon was a German immigrant to this country. He taught German at Harvard, and he became a Unitarian. But he brought one tradition from the old country, and a Unitarian, Harriet Martineau, wrote the following story about it in 1835. The little child in the story's name is Charlie, so that makes it all the more interesting. "I was present at the introduction into the new country of the spectacle of the German Christmas tree. My little friend Charlie and 3 companions had long been preparing for the pretty show. The tree was the top of a young fir planted in a tub which was ornamented with moss, smart dolls, and other whimsies glittered in the evergreen, and there was not a twig which had not something sparkling upon it. It really looked beautiful. The room seemed in a blaze, and the ornaments were so well hung that no accident happened, except that one doll's petticoat caught fire. This was before electricity, real candles on the tree. And no harm ensued. I mounted the steps behind the tree to see the effect of the opening doors. It was delightful. The children poured in, but in a moment every voice was hushed. Their faces were upturned to the blaze, all eyes wide open, all lips parted, all steps arrested. Nobody spoke. Only Charlie leaped for joy. The first symptom of recovery was the children's wandering around the tree. At last, a quick pair of eyes discovered that it bore something eatable. And from that moment, the babble began. They were told they might get what they could without burning themselves. We tall people kept watch and helped them with good things from the higher branches. When all had enough, we returned to the larger room and finished the evening with dancing. But a little after 11, Charlie's father and mother and I were left by ourselves to sit in the new year. I had little doubt that the Christmas tree will become the most flourishing exotics of all New England." Charles Dickens, another writer, was an English Unitarian friend of Harriet Martineau's, and he also wrote about the Christmas tree as it appeared in England around the same time. I have been looking on this evening at a merry company of children assembled round that pretty German toy, a Christmas tree. A tree was planted in the middle of a great round table and towered high above the heads. It was brilliantly lighted by a multitude of little tapers, and everywhere sparkled and glittered with bright objects. Now the tree is decorated with bright merriment, and a song and dance and cheerfulness, and they welcome innocent, welcome be they ever held, the children beneath the branches of the Christmas tree, which cast no gloomy shadow. But it sinks into the ground. I hear a whisper going through the leaves. The words of Jesus, this in commemoration of the law of love and kindness and mercy, this in remembrance of me. But Dickens is most remembered for not writing about Christmas trees, but for writing about Ebenezer Scrooge and Bob Cratchit and Tiny Tim. In A Christmas Story Carol, Scrooge felt that Christmas was a humbug, which was the majority opinion of the day. Most Christians thought that the winter celebrations were too tainted with paganism to be a fit commemoration of the birthday of Jesus. But Scrooge didn't celebrate any happiness in life. He didn't spend money on the poor. And Scrooge didn't even spend money on himself. He was consumed with obtaining wealth and thought any enjoyment as silly. He was visited by the ghost of Christmas past, the ghost of Christmas present, and the ghost of Christmas future. And the next morning awoke with joy, knowing that Christmas was for giving and for sharing. Dickens, in many of his books, showed concerns for the poor. And in this season, we must especially remember those less fortunate than us. This month, I was made aware of a prayer written by Ina J. Hughes for the Children's Defense Fund that reminds us to care for each precious child. I'll read an excerpt. We pray for children who have no safe blanket to drag behind them, who watch their parents watch them die, who can't find any bread to steal, whose pictures aren't on anybody's dressers, whose monsters are real. We pray for the children who spend their allowance before Tuesday, who throw tantrums in the grocery store and pick at their food. We pray for children who want to be carried, and for those who must, for those we never give up on and those who don't get a second chance, for those we smother and those who will grab the hand of anybody kind enough to offer it. All of us are born helpless, and all of us are saved by those around us. Christmas celebrates the birth of the child Jesus, and many of the carols sing promises of peace. And these promises can often feel very empty in the face of today's suffering. We cannot look back and hope that magic will save us. We can only be saved if we realize the miracle of each and every child. Edmund Hamilton Sears, a UU minister, wrote, "It came upon a midnight clear." He wrote of the special night that Jesus was born, but also he writes of the broken promises of Christmas. Yet with the woes of sin and strife, the world has suffered long. Beneath the angel strain has rolled 2,000 years of wrong, and man at war with man hears not the love song which they bring. Oh, hush the noise, ye men of strife, and hear the angels sing. As we celebrate Christmas, we must listen for the echoes of angels. A song of peace is heard only when we sing it. The night that each of us was born was indeed a holy night. We are the angels we are waiting for. Children and former children, I ask you to rise as you are able and join in the song of salvation, peace on earth, goodwill to all. Our hymn is, It Came Upon a Midnight Clear,